Indeed, so plenty of history attached to this event. We should actually make mention that this is also the backyard not only of Sir Winston Churchill, but a certain Theresa May, the current leader of the UK. She was she was raised just down the road in Haythrop, which is just down the A44. Of course, her father was a vicar in Haythrop, and then she moved to nearby Wheatley. And if you look from where we are standing in Fraser's Field, suitably named, you'll see that there are lots of wheat fields that you can dare to run through if you were that way inclined. She went on to Oxford University, so maybe when she meets the President at Blenheim Palace this evening, Anita, she'll be sharing some of her youth and some of her memories of this particular area.
Okay, Christian, thank you very much. Love the fact that you're standing in Fraser Field today. Well, I'm standing at Regent's Park, or just on the outskirts of it, the perimeter of it, the security cordon just behind me that leads to Winfield House, the US ambassador's official residence, where, of course, President Trump and Melania Trump are currently, and where they'll be spending the night tonight. Now, we're just hearing that this afternoon since they arrived here. They've met US Embassy staff and their families. A couple of quotes coming from that exchange, although nothing on camera. Staff saying it was a wonderful moment. Another line coming out is that he was being very complimentary towards the US's allies. Now, you may remember that Donald Trump was supposed to come to the UK before now to officially open the new US embassy when it moved from Grosvenor Square to location in Nine Elms in London, and he didn't come, he said, because of what he called the lousy location. He blamed incorrectly President Obama for making the decision to move the location of the embassy, but a lot of people at that time thought he wasn't coming because of the fear of, or the concern about protests. But at any rate, he didn't meet the US Embassy staff at that point, but he has met them and their families now. Well, it's been a busy day so far. Let's take stock of it with this report from Richard Galpin.
I'm not sure I understand.
More than 18 months after becoming president, Donald Trump flew into Stansted Airport this afternoon at the start of what's been described as a working, not a state visit. From there, he was taken by helicopter to London, flying over the city centre before coming in to land. He and the First Lady, Melania Trump, being greeted by the US Ambassador, Woody Johnson. The preparations for this first official visit by Mr. Trump to Britain have included massive security measures costing millions of pounds. This is Regent's Park, where he'll spend the night in the US Ambassador's residence. An opinion poll on the eve of this visit showed 50% disagreed with him coming here. And already, following a fractious NATO meeting in Brussels this morning, the US president has stirred up controversy here, wading into the vexed Brexit debate and whether the government's new approach was what people had voted for.
I would say that, Brexit is Brexit. It's not like, I guess when you use the term hard Brexit, I assume that's what you mean. The people voted to break it up. So I would imagine that's what they'll do, but maybe they're taking a little bit of a different route. So I don't know if that's what they voted for. I just want the people to be happy.
He's also claiming his tough line with other NATO members about meeting military spending commitments has worked.
For years, presidents have been coming to these meetings and talked about the expense, the tremendous expense for the United States, and tremendous progress has been made. Everyone's agreed to substantially up their commitment. They're going to up it at levels that they've never thought of before.
Back here, activists opposed to his policies are getting ready to stage demonstrations in different parts of the country. In London, there'll also be this blimp with an image of Trump as a baby floating over Westminster. Protest leaders accuse him of immaturity, as well as racism and bigotry.
When racists and extreme right-wingers are on the march, you don't sit back, you don't just sit there hoping it will all go away. You take to the streets, you mobilise, and you fight back. We hope it will put pressure on the government, that they will see, the moral leadership that they're failing to provide is out there on the streets instead.
But his itinerary, including a dinner this evening with senior ministers and business leaders here at Blenheim Palace in Oxfordshire, ensures he'll be kept away from protesters. The government hopes the talks here and at Chequers tomorrow will bolster relations. Mr. Trump's supporters are confident.
I think Donald Trump will have wonderful and fruitful conversations with the Prime Minister, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who's president or who's Prime Minister. The long-standing relationship between our two countries will endure. It has endured for centuries and will do so for time to come.
And yet, this is likely to be a very fraught visit, with thousands of people gearing up to protest and irritation at government level about Mr. Trump's comments on Brexit before he even arrived here. Richard Galpin, BBC News.
Well, Theresa may have thought it wasn't particularly helpful earlier today when Donald Trump referred to coming to the UK and saying he was going to a hotspot because of the resignations, the political resignations this week, and because also he said people weren't getting the Brexit they voted for, and he seemed to be suggesting that the UK was moving back towards the EU again. So we've just got this clip of Theresa May when that point was put to her.
We're delivering on the vote of the British people to take back control of our money, our laws and our borders, and that's what our proposal does. We're also ensuring that as we do that, we protect people's lives, livelihoods and their jobs, and that we of course deliver on our commitment to Northern Ireland, that there should be no hard border between Northern Ireland and Ireland.
But the reality is that Brussels isn't going to buy this anyway, so you're going to have to make further concessions, which will only anger a lot of people in your party and in a country that voted for Brexit.
Well, what we've heard so far from other leaders and from Brussels is actually a positive response, that this is a proposal that we can sit down and start increasing the pace of the negotiations on this particular issue. At every stage through these negotiations, people have cast doubt as to whether we were going to achieve what we wanted to achieve, and at every stage we have done so. We did so in December with the agreement on the financial settlement and on citizens' rights. We did so in March with the agreement on the implementation period. Now we've set forward a proposal that protects people's jobs, protects people's livelihoods, delivers on our commitment for the no hard border between Northern Ireland and Ireland, but crucially delivers on the vote of the British people to take back control of our money, our laws and our borders.
Well, Donald Trump made those comments about Brexit and about the EU, about the UK being a hotspot, in his words, a little earlier today when he was speaking at a news conference at the conclusion of the NATO summit. That was a pretty fractious affair as well, according to reports, as Donald Trump urged other countries to increase their contributions towards the NATO budget. Our chief international news correspondent, Lise Doucette, has been following events there.
Well, yes, and you're joining us at this gleaming new NATO headquarters, the first NATO summit here, and the first of this new diplomacy by President Trump, hardball politics. Some would even say it's bullying. And yes, he was talking really tough to his NATO allies from the moment, in fact, even before he got here, with sending letters to the NATO leaders, demanding that they increase their defense spending, tweeting it before he arrived, and then, like a wind from across the ocean, he blew through here. And basically what came from us, from the reports inside, that he used a phrase that he could go his own way, the United States could go their own way if his NATO allies didn't meet their commitments. Now, we've heard from President Macron of France. He said no, he never threatened to leave. So the Lithuanian president said that. So it's a question of interpretation, but there's no denying he really is playing tough with his allies.
Lise Doucette reporting from NATO headquarters there. Well, joining us now on BBC News, it's the leader of the Liberal Democrats, Sir Vince Cable. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon. I'm sure you've had an opportunity to listen to what Donald Trump said at the conclusion of that NATO summit earlier. He said that NATO was stronger than it was a couple of days ago. What did you make of what happened there?
Well, he's been trying to weaken NATO consistently throughout his presidency. As I understand, I don't know whether this is corroborated, that he told the French that he was considering American withdrawal, And it's part of a pattern where he is trashing all the international cooperative relationships which we need as a country. The World Trade System, the World Trade Organization, international agreements on climate change, the UN, NATO, the European Union. I mean, to have a world that actually works, we need cooperation, and he's going systematically destroying them. I mean, he is becoming an enemy of this country, let alone not a friend.
Is he weakening NATO, though, if he's encouraging other countries to increase their contributions to the overall budget, which is something other presidents have tried to do as well?
Well, it's perfectly reasonable to expect member states to pay their contributions, and indeed Britain does so, and rightly does so. Of course, America has global defence commitments as well as defence commitments in Europe, so it's not strictly correct. And his big tirade against Germany for having a gas pipeline to Russia was absolutely nonsensical. This kind of trade in energy took place throughout the period of Soviet government. It was actively promoted by Mrs. Thatcher when she was Prime Minister. I mean, this is simply creating division within the alliance.
So how does this set the tone, do you think, for the visit here and, of course, for his meeting, his discussions with Theresa May at Chequers tomorrow? What sort of tone do you expect her to take with him? What sort of tone would you like?
Well, I hope the British government is a lot more robust with him. I mean,